Hello, everyone. I am so delighted to welcome you to this event with Andrew Harvey and my dear, dear, beloved friend. And it is the very first speaker event on this worldwide campus of consciousness brought to you by Called by Love. And it is such a joy to have you joining us today. I am Dr. Marj Britt, and I am the founder of Called by Love, and out of that have become the founder of Living Loving Legacy. Living your destiny, loving your life, and realizing legacy. And our beautiful guest today is a person that has shown me that path in a blazing trail of light for many years. He has come to the campus of Unity of Tustin more times than any other speaker on this wonderful, incredible telesummit series. He's been there for multi-day intensives. And every time that he came, I would prepare the field for him to step in, usually with a 7-week series on one of his books. My favorite was The Way of Passion, a celebration of Rumi. And each week I was immersing myself in the field of his consciousness and his energy and his passionate writings that were flowing through him. And it was like an initiation week by week. And then Andrew would arrive for a 4 or 5 day intensive. It would start with a celebration service of him being there, usually on a Sunday morning. It would begin the intense dive Sunday afternoon, and then every day on Monday evening, Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, Thursday evening, we went deeper and deeper, higher and deeper, always. And I still, and people bring you up probably more than any other person that ever came to the campus of consciousness during the period of time that it was emerging and then blossoming and just coming into its fullest potential. And Andrew, welcome. Welcome.
Marj, thank you for
I
that
love you with all of my heart.
I love you, darling. And thank you for doing this wonderful adventure. And thank you for inviting me. And thank you for the great honor of being the first person to dialogue with you. But I must reflect back to you something, which is that if any of us could give our best teachings again and again with you and for you, it was because of a quality of spirit and soul and passion that you brought. And what you did, and with the help of wonderful people, create in Tustin was a mystical church, a mystical temple, a place where real mystics could explore this great transformation that's happening on the earth together. And you created an atmosphere in which total permission to go as far as possible with dignity was given. And that is a tremendous feat because nothing was tamped down in Tustin. Nothing was limited. You let me have carte blanche, and you let the people you trusted have carte blanche to guide people into the depths of true mystical experience. And this was a very holy gift you created for us. So I just want to thank you for that and to commemorate that, because it was an important part of the transformation that's been happening in America, an important part of the authentic part of it. Thank you.
You know, Andrew, I really was totally aware during all of those times that it really, truly was holy ground.
I knew
and
that.
the image now is coming into my awareness of when you were teaching the direct path, and you were teaching us the forms of prayer, and even people going into the body, the embodiment of it, and it was such a gift. It was such a gift that you brought
I think
to
it
me.
reflected the embodiment in the building, in the atmosphere there. I think it was a perfect meeting of place and teacher and celebration. I think that Tustin, you had embodied spirit there. It was alive there. There was real life happening. And that takes an enormous amount of energy from the person guiding it, which was you. So it's a big journey that you undertook with such love and such sincerity and such honoring of all the other teachers, which is another wonderful quality of yours, and it really does need celebrating, is that you are such an authoritative and profoundly versed mystic yourself with great faith and great knowledge, and yet you're always so able to turn and celebrate other people and their gifts and to offer them the place where they can explore those gifts and deepen those gifts. That's a tremendous sacred feminine generosity of spirit that has blessed you and blessed us through you. So thank you for it. It's a very rare virtue in a world where there's so much competition. And you have shown so much the honoring of the people you honor. That's a very beautiful thing to have shown in the way you did how you did what you did. And I'm sure that everything you do now will have that same coloration of respect and dignity and tremendous celebration of all of the gifts that we now are all bringing or trying to this great end beginning game we're in.
It feels to me as if this is all part of the emergence into the oneness.
Yes.
And I thank you for being so significant in my beginning to take it from a cognitive concept into an embodied concept. So, Andrew, let me start out by let me start out by asking you the question that came to me just yesterday as I was thinking about the email that we would send people reminding them to be on the call. And the first question was, how did someone born in India and educated at Oxford become a world-renowned mystic, a scholar, and a passionate advocate of sacred activism? How did it happen?
For me, that's like describing Hiroshima. So I was born into a sacred culture by being born in India. And so the first experiences that I had as a child were mystical experiences without me knowing them. There was non-duality, I think, at the very beginning. Then I was put through the English ringer and created a false persona, which shattered when I was 25 with a series of mystical experiences that showed me that reality was far vaster than anything that my Western training had given me initiation to. It just showed me that I was nothing compared to this vast truth that was being unfolded, God knows why, to me. And that really meant that I had to give up one whole way of life, which was hard because I became, as I think many seekers do, perhaps all seekers do, schizophrenic, on the one hand wanting tremendously to be transformed, but on the other hand terrified at what transformation might mean, what would have to be given up. And this continued for a while, but I plunged into Sufism, into Hindu devotion, to a living guru, into Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, and into my own private devotion to the Christ. And I had a kind of awakening experience when I was 36, in which I saw the whole universe disappear into light and reappear in light. And I knew that I was not two with the consciousness in which that was happening, and that everybody was also not two. This is the supreme grace of the beloved to us, this spark of divine consciousness that lives in all of us as our final reality, is the final reality. And that led to me questioning what I'd been given this experience for, because I really understood that a birth was taking place, but we need to know what this birth is and how to birth it, because everything in human history, it seems, is at stake. The crisis that we're living through on every level is very extreme, and it's an evolutionary crisis. And my whole work became about this evolutionary exploration of what is happening at this moment on the planet. And through amazing encounters with Father Bede Griffiths, for example, who showed me the truth of the Christ path because he was being Christed, I came through grace to see that what's trying to be born on the planet is a embodied divine humanity, a humanity that lives in the full field of divine love and acts from that field to heal and to promote compassion and justice, a new humanity, but born out of an immense crisis, an immense death, an immense suffering. And this has been the guiding vision of my last work, which is really concretized around sacred activism, because the force that I think is needed now is a force of divine passion and wisdom in action, arising out of divine embodiment, claiming the world as totally sacred, working for justice and peace and reconciliation and harmony between humanity and nature on every level, very urgently, very fast, releasing the animals from our mad cruelty towards them, starting the rehabilitation of the seas, a massive work of reconstruction of a devastated planet. This force of sacred activism is what will birth potentially the new humanity, but we have to get going. So this is where I am. This is my journey. This has been a very passionate and fierce journey, and it's constantly expanding. And I think the times are very urgent. I think we have to see the signs and really aim as far and as intensely as we can for the next level of our evolution to expand in us, so that we can be of the most service to this great evolutionary transformation that we're all part of.
You know, it's fascinating, Andrew, the paradoxes that you integrated in just describing this experience of your life. And your clear awareness that it started in the mystical, with its roots in India, and then you're attending Oxford, and where Cambridge and Oxford are two universities centuries old, of a very, very elite group of what's known sort of as the super brands, 6 universities in the world, and there are 2 of them. Harvard and MIT and UC Berkeley and Stanford are the ones that
in America, This is the training of the elite in dissociation, though. It's a very bizarre experience when you're trained for that kind of level of celebrity and power, and as a member of an elite, you just get to see behind the scenes and see the rottenness of the essential values and their lack of any kind of sacred imagination.
And somehow, some force, some power took you into an integration of the consciousness of seeing both and.
Oh, very much so, because in the end, to marry, for example, I could never end up hating England and Oxford and the whole machine of academia, because it trained my mind in a way that when I was able to dedicate my mind to the soul, to the work of the Spirit, I had a mind that was passionate about accuracy, passionate about getting things as clear as possible to help people as much as possible, which is the great gift of that whole academic tradition.
Passionate about the research, the study, the translations.
Yes,
I've seen
because
this
they're so crucial to get as clear, as deep, and as naked a glimpse of what the original source might be. There's such revelation in them. For me, that's been at the core of what I've been able to begin to try to do with Rumi, because of the immensity of what's coming through him.
I had an amazing experience this morning when I opened my computer and I subscribed to your series that's on a daily Om, a year of Rumi, where you translate Rumi one day, it's a lesson every day. And I received this morning my 206th lesson. I found that interesting. I love numbers, and 2 plus 6 is an 8, which is an infinity symbol, the union of heaven and earth for me.
Yes.
And your translation of the poetry of Rumi on whirling. And I am trampled grapes, run where love pulls me. Why whirl round me, you laugh? I'm whirling round myself.
Wow.
I see that in you, and I also see it in me.
Oh, well, I think that's a great blessing on your whirling from the Master of Love. Wonderful. He is everywhere. This is so amazing, isn't it, that we live in a time where people can receive a message from superconsciousness every day through their computer. I think this is an amazing weapon in the great love war that we're fighting for the future, that people like you and me can get these messages every day that can inject that holiness and sacred consciousness into our bloodstream when we need it most.
It's so incredible.
It's wonderful. It's very holy.
So, Andrew, as you look at your life, so many of the scholars, so many of the people who have researched the territories. I love this Telesummit series because all of the people on it are the advanced scouts in researching the territories of consciousness. And you are one of the most passionate of the advanced scouts. A bit of a rabble-rouser sometimes.
Yes. I confess that that's true, because the rabble does need rousing. God, the coma is very deep at times, but I think it's being shattered a bit now, thank God.
I think so. That one of the things that so many of the researchers have worked with is research that's never been done before on the adult stages of development, the evolution of consciousness, even going back millions of years, and the breakthrough points in what Ken Wilber calls the tipping point that we're right at now, this window. And do you see in your own life these same stages? Did stages show up differently at different times in your life?
Oh, yes, because I am not at all the same person that began my life. I think if you have, despite yourself being through multiple mystical transformations and are continuing to go through those transformations, it's almost impossible to imagine conveying what you know now through the grace of the Beloved to what you knew then or thought you were. So there's been an immense transformation of my consciousness through the grace of love. I've just been dragged through the hedges again and again and taken somewhere where I'm seeing much more clearly the sacredness of everything, the holiness of everything, the immense beauty that we're meant to be in love of, in service of at all moments.
Do you see imprints of what I call imprints of love, and some of them can be sort of strange, unusual phases of love in our lives, and I know that's been true in mine.
Oh, yes, yes. I think really you have to be both crucified and resurrected by love. On the real path of love, you have to be destroyed by God and by human beings. There's a total destruction of illusion that has to happen, which is the dark night. And that has to be a complete destruction because it completely humbles the ego. It just reduces the ego to a cry before the beloved. And at that moment, the beloved can pour the beloved into the absolutely worn away, burnt away ego. And that is a very important part of the journey. It's not just the light, it's the dark, it's the betrayal, it's the suffering, there are many forms of loss and betrayal that have to be undergone before you begin to see clearly. And these are part of the great karmic dance that our lives are, don't you feel?
I do. And what it feels like to me is that every soul has a very unique journey that is a karmic imprint that integrates all of the pieces, the golden karma, or what Jung called the golden shadow, as well as those realms of the unconscious where healing is still needed, first in our personal lives, in order that we can be part of healing and teaching in the world, perhaps.
Very much so. That's where I think it's so important to have direct divine relationship with the beloved beyond time and space, with the beloved in time and space as the creation, as the whole cosmos, as the whole of reality, and with the beloved in the core of your life, with all the people you share your life with, and with yourself, too, to sanctify the whole experience. I think that's the only way to go forward in that state of consciousness, of divine love consciousness.
You know, one of the things that I was sort of immersing myself in preparing for the time with you today was just asking myself, if I had to choose of all of the moments in time that we've shared together, when you were here, when we've traveled, when we've been in India, was there one or two that would really stand out? And you probably don't even remember this, Andrew, but the one that just vividly came into my awareness was one day when we had gone for lunch at Laguna Beach and loads of
yes.
one of our long lunches. And afterwards we were walking there along the cliffs, looking out over the ocean, and we stopped and sat down on a bench. And
I remember it very well.
We were in our deep conversation, which seems to always happen when you and I are together, and we were talking about these deep, deep experiences of visible, invisible love in human form, love beyond human form, cosmic love. And you said to me or asked me, have you ever experienced that with anyone?
Oh, yes, I remember that.
And I told you yes, although it's been very rare in my life.
Yes.
And then I described an experience of it feeling like two spoons.
Yes.
Being together, just nested in union, where they're separate and yet you can't even.
You can't tell where you begin, where the other ends, where there is. It's non-dual. You're not them and you're not them. It's beyond any definition, isn't it, as our relationship with reality is.
And I think that's one of the things that I've loved most about the conversations that you and I have had, is that you've never run away from my intensity.
No, my God.
Lots of people
that would be like, no. Intensity is not something I run away from. I'm so grateful to see it in the flatlands of America. It's so important and it's so necessary, because there's a lot of fakerama and there's a lot of damping down of the real passion of the mystical path. And that's dangerous because we need the passion, we need the intensity, we need the vibrancy, we need the courage that comes from the intensity and vibrancy. It's so essential. That's why Rumi, I think, is so sacred to so many people, because he gives us permission for our most sacred passions, our most sacred emotions. And he gives us permission to see them as mystically whole and healing and empowering. It's a magnificent gift the Beloved has given us in him.
So, Andrew, when you think about your life and the faces of love in your life, people who have been that in living, vibrant, radiant, ecstatic color for you,
there's only one person who really has been that for me, and that's Father Bede, because I think all the other sacred relationships I have had, even with the Dalai Lama and with my Tibetan teacher, they all pale before my experience of Father Bede at the end of his life, when I had the honor to make with an Australian film director a film about his life and spend 2 weeks with him, and then find out that he had had a series of heart attacks after the film had been made, and then go back and be with him as he was dying and experience the holiness of his nature and the holiness of what was happening in him, the tremendous transmission of divine love and the embodiment of divine love that he was and is. To discover all of this through grace, this is something that can only happen once in a lifetime, I think. But it changed everything, because in Father Bede I saw the truth of the embodiment mystery at the heart of the Christ consciousness, because I saw someone being visibly reborn in heart, in mind, in soul, and in body. There was a physical transfiguration taking place in him before the stroke and during the stroke, and partly because of the stroke, there was an immense process, an alchemical process taking place of tremendous transfiguring power. And that changed everything, as I understand the whole nature of Christ consciousness, from a completely different level of intensity, only because I saw him, only because I could, through grace, be there to witness this. And that has been what has changed my life, because once you've seen this level of intensity, what you're describing is your intensity, but that intensity taken to that next quantum level, in which it actually becomes the site of a transfiguration process, is to see the truth of the evolutionary process that we're in at the moment. And I think we're all aiming for that. I certainly am, and I know you are. Everything has to be stepped up calmly, peacefully, but with great focus now, because we've come to this great age of birth and death, this great age of it's now or never.
I'm just seeing so vividly now, as you talk about Father Bede, when you and I, and there was a group of probably 15 or 20 of us that went to India, southern India, together. And
oh, yes.
We were at Shantivanam.
I know, I remember, my God, Shantivanam. Yeah, you were very
the
moved
hut
there,
where Father Bede lived, and and then one day you came up to me and Michael and said, "Oh, you must come with me. We must go and walk along the river where I used to walk with Father Bede." And the three of us went off, and you told us ecstatic stories about those moments you were sharing with him, and just ordinary moments walking along a river, and yet your memory of them, your awareness of them was now and so present, and you were living that ecstasy even as you talked about it as we were walking there.
Well, to me, thank you so much for saying that. That is so moving. I think, for me, when someone is as holy as he was, as completely transparent, as humble, as absolutely beautiful inside and outside, totally one with love, the most immense love is born in your heart, something that completely breaks your heart open, because you have no defenses against such beauty, because it's actually divine beauty shining through a person. And your heart breaks not as a disciple for a guru, because he wasn't my guru, and not as a servant to a lord, because he was never ever going to claim superiority, but as a beloved to a beloved, someone who was so overawed by the beauty of the one that he saw that his heart died at his feet. That's the real transmission of the Christ, isn't it?
Yes.
Why does Jesus have the hold over the heart of the world that he has to all true mystics? I think it's because when you get even a glimpse of the beauty of that heart that could go through anything and everything to reach out yet again to love and to help and to transform and to transmute. My God, if you just glimpse it for a second, you're blinded by the beauty of it. I think that's what Bede, well, I know that's what was shining from Bede, you see, the light of the Christ consciousness. That's permanently blinding for me.
And it's very amazing that you are now teaching a 9-month course on that, on the Christ consciousness, on the Shift Network. And it has been sort of blowing the top off of all of their statistics on registration. And they didn't
I'm
even
very
know
moved
if it
by
would
this,
be
but I
attracting
think
people to start.
Well, it's immensely exciting, and what Shift Network is doing is immensely exciting. And what's most exciting is that there should be so many people truly wanting to hear somebody whose life has become about the Christ consciousness, speaking out of what he really feels. And that is so much more encouraging than anything that I've come across for the last bit. That I'm dancing on both feet. It's very exciting. People's questions are so profound. What I've been struck by is how deep the questions that people have been asking are. People are really listening to this enormously challenging material. The real non-dual material that Jesus gave us is so challenging because it's so fierce on our embrace of limitation. He's saying you are able to do all of this also. Stop playing small. It's very hard facing him. In that mode, that's why they made him into a god. So really getting this across is tremendously exciting for people, I think. Very empowering. They find their true brother again. It's exciting.
I so love 2 scriptures. One of them is where Jesus says, and he's quoting an Old Testament verse, I think it's in Isaiah, where he says, "Know ye not that ye are gods?" And then the other one that I love so much, and this is in the Gospels, is the things that I do, you will do also, and even greater things.
If that wasn't true, he wouldn't be Jesus. If it wasn't about a total gift of a new dimension, of an embodied divine humanity, what on earth would it have been about? Why would he have gone to those lengths? It had to be a completely universal gift of a wholly new level of cosmic human being. That's what came from him. That's amazing, isn't it?
It is, and what is also stunning is how it has all emerged in the vibration, the essence of who you are. And did you ever get any glimpses of what I sometimes call glimpses of destiny? Did you ever experience any signs or symbols or visions or synchronicities or dreams that might have given you a glimpse of what was going to unfold in you and through you and ultimately as you?
Well, I think the ultimate experience was of the Christ himself. my beloved. I saw him in a church in Coimbatore when I was with my dying father, and Coimbatore was where I was born, so I was with my dying father being flayed alive by his dying, but finding a deep sacred love for him and from him, and went to church and saw the living resurrected Christ and felt an overwhelming love penetrate my whole being from him, and an answering volcano of love from my being to him. So love and beloved and love became one sacred fire, one initiatory fire. And then I went out and I saw a man with no arms and no legs, and he was destitute, and he was in a puddle, and I went and lifted him and gave him the money I had and saw that he was looked after, and then heard the voice of the Christ say, this is the world, this is what's going on. Billions are dying, there is death everywhere, there's complete madness. The environment is being destroyed. You cannot not respond from the depth of the heart. You have to put love into action now. And it was a very piercing message, and that was the birth for me of sacred activism. So it was a moment of being pierced by something far greater than my destiny. It's nothing to do with my destiny. I think it's to do with the truth of how we must go forward. We must put love into action now. We must ground our sacred consciousness and fuel an immense revolution on every level for justice and for compassion and for living in harmony and balance with nature. Otherwise, we're just slitting our throats, and the knife is already very close to the throat, so it's time to get real.
So I know one of your great living passions is all of the work you're doing in sacred activism, and it's so huge, it's so immense. How do you balance it? Do you have other practices like prayer and meditation?
I find the more serious the work I do, the more playful I need to keep my innermost life. And I live in a quiet log cabin in Arkansas up a dirt road with my two beautiful cats, Topaz and Jade. And I inhale the calm beauty of the landscape. And I really deeply ground myself in peace so that I can continue to pour out what I have to pour out. So I'm trying to find a really profound balance, because I think the times demand us all finding that really profound balance from which we can continue to give as wisely as possible to what's unfolding. So that's how I do it. And also I love to work with creative artists. I had the most wonderful joy a few years back of making a film with the great Iranian sacred dancer Banafsheh Sayad, who is truly a genius, and a genius of sacred dance, and extraordinarily, and in the grandest sense, beautiful, very beautiful indeed. And she and I made a film about the journey of the soul in Rumi, where she danced the stages of divine embodiment. We called it In the Fire of Grace. And to have the chance to work with someone of her sacred passion and genius was such an inspiration to me, and to be able to commemorate it in the film was a great prayer realized, a dream realized. So I always make sure that I'm also fulfilling some of my own deep sacred dreams. Otherwise you can get too shattered by the external in one's public work.
I know you have a new book coming out. It's Light the Flame. Do you want to tell us about that?
Well, this is a dream come true, because for 30 years I've been collecting passionate short prayers from the different mystical traditions, because I'm a total believer in very intense, pure, short prayers that establish immediately a naked relationship between your heart and the heart of the beloved. Just go straight to the point. And then I had an idea of bringing them all these traditions, all these short prayers together in a book that would be a kind of humble, poignant, searing, glorious, exalting, mystical prayer Bible for those of us who really want to take the universal soul journey now and birth the divine human. A prayer book that people could use that would be at once very down home but also very exalted, because the greatest short prayers, and two spring to mind, the great prayer of Bishop Pusey saying, "Lord, let us not live to be useless." I think that's one of the great prayers of all time. And also the prayer of St. Augustine, "O Lord, give us what you demand of us," which is as strong as you get. So you have prayers that really rope in the heart and the soul through all of the different voices of all of the different traditions, shamanic traditions, African shamanic traditions that venerate the lion, Aboriginal traditions, Yanomami traditions, Hawaiian traditions, and then Taoism and the ancient Egyptian tradition. All of the voices are crystallized so that people can really hear the whole sacred wisdom of the world in prayer, to light the flame of their passion for the world and passion to do something from a sacred consciousness to heal the world and help the world at this moment. So that was my dream. And I must say, I really feel, and people are writing to me in the most wonderful way about this book to give me heart and to show me that it's truly, truly opening up kind of in a humble Bible, prayer Bible, universal mystical prayer Bible, just something that people can use to open these great channels of grace between all of us and the one that is longing to be born in us and wants to be born now.
So beautiful. And I know it's available through Amazon and also Hay House. So I am looking forward to it. I've gotten my copy ordered.
Well, what is your birthday? Let's see which is on your birthday. Just tell me your birthday and I'll look at the entry and see if it corresponds to some deep mystical reality of yours.
My birthday is April 15.
April 15. This is from Hermann Hesse. Be with me, Lord, as I wander alone under your stars, with only my longing for you as my companion.
That's perfect.
That's a wonderful read for you, I think, at some deep level. That
Absolutely.
The Platonist alchemist staring into transcendence quietly alone is very much part of yourself, isn't it?
Well, right now, where I experience myself all the time is living on the bridge, the cosmic bridge between the visible and the invisible. Yes. And the cosmos is more real to me now than the realms of the visible world. So it's fascinating. That's absolutely perfect. You gave me another prayer.
Which you can continue making mischief on a major scale for the rest of your life, isn't it? You just sit in that place and radiate mischief. That's your duty from now on.
I loved what you wrote
wonderful.
when I invited you to the telesummit, and you said, "Oh, yes, I'm so happy to hear you concocting ever more exciting ways to infiltrate God."
Did I say that? That's what I feel. I think people are slowly waking up, though. I think that there is a genuine awakening happening, don't you? I see it, I feel it. I think it's going slower than many of us would have hoped. But certain people seem to be ready to face some really tough stuff about the world and also to really do serious work with the real mystical traditions and not fool around. That's a wonderful sign, I think, of the beginnings of a new seriousness. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I do. And yet it's always been there. I've felt it in you.
Yes, you're right.
Every time we've been together. And, you know, you gave me one of the greatest prayers when we were walking in the garden at Unity in Tustin, and you gave me the prayer from Ibn Arabi, A Garden Among the Flames.
Oh, yes.
And you stood there and went into one of your exuberant states, and I love your energy when you do that. It's just transforming, and you began to quote the poem, and oh God, a garden among the flames, my heart can take on any form.
It's such an
extraordinary
poem, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, garden amidst the flames, yes. Whatever way love's camel takes, that way is my religion.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? It's such a liberation.
So many times our lives seem to be dissolved in the living flame of love.
Oh, the living flame of love will get it all in the end. That's the point, isn't it? That's what we're burning in. It's either you burn consciously or you burn unconsciously. Better to burn consciously, because then you have the full force of the intense experience of adoration, of love. My God, we're all burning out in and as love all the time, if only we knew it, don't you think?
I think, yes.
You know at this stage of life, don't you? You know that that's the purpose of being here. There's no other purpose.
Yeah.
Because when you find that, you find your purpose, and everything flows naturally from that sacred burning, doesn't it?
Everything comes into place out of that sacred fire.
Yes.
And it sort of feels like you're being singed sometimes.
Oh, you get thoroughly beaten about by the flames sometimes, and you get put in your place, and you get humbled, and you get shaken, and you get terrified, because you're not in control of this energy. It is the energy of the Absolute, so you better get on your knees in front of it. But it's not. Once you accept that relationship, it's fine, because you can only come from total surrender.
So, Andrew...
That's how I experience it. I don't know if that's probably a more male vision of it all, but that's why I love the Islamic mystics, because they're so much in awe of the beloved. They don't think the beloved is something you call on for a parking place or to help you get rich or anything. You're begging the beloved. You're truly, truly in awe before the cosmic creator.
So I had more questions that I'd put in the reminder email. How has it felt to live this mystical love of Rumi in both its heart expansions and its heart breaks?
Well, I don't think you can even begin to love without accepting that one day you're going to have to drink the whole cup of love. You're going to have to sit with Rumi and Jesus at a table with a cup in front of you, and the cup is going to be filled with all the pain in the world and all the beauty in the world, and they're all intermingled, and you're going to have to drink it, but you can't be forced to drink it. Then if you drink it, it reveals itself as mystical birth, as a new reality, because then love becomes the only reality. And that is the beginnings of liberation. But it's not disembodied, it's not transcendent, it's totally immanent, it's totally of this time, of this creation, of these people in this crisis. It's not in any way dissociated, it's totally alert, but it's totally aflame. And I think that's what Rumi is giving his lovers, is this immense inflammatory initiation into the fire of love. And I think this is happening on an immense scale. It's, what is so phenomenal about what's exploding in Rumi is that it has really never happened that we have a mystical poet who is revered by all faiths and who's revered in the East and in the West, whose work is read by every kind of person, many people who don't read any other poet who is mystical read and devour Rumi and love Rumi. This is an immense explosion of heart wisdom, heart passion, heart truth at the core of our crisis. It's a great blessing. It's like a huge perfume bottle that's been unstopped, and everybody's getting a whiff of that sacred perfume of celebration and adoration and passion that is Rumi. It's extraordinary phenomenon, isn't it?
It's so beautiful. So I have
Such
another
a divine grace.
Another question, because I know I feel the complexity of this so many times. How do you put what is beyond words into words that can be that blazing light and love for others? Those of us who sometimes feel it, know it, experience it as our very selves, how do we bring it back into the world? You know, Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." What's beyond words into words? How do you do that?
Well, I think it really, in the end, has nothing whatever to do with words. I think it has to do with the presence you are. So there is absolutely no hope of being a humble channel for the word of the divine unless you truly, truly love God with all of your heart, mind, and soul. And then your whole attunement becomes an attunement of your relationship to the beloved, because from that everything else will flow. So all that matters is that you should be straight with the one you love, with the one that is at the core of all the desires and longings, the infinite one, and that you should constantly turn in the depths of yourself to that one and ask that one guidance and help and mercy and transformation that is real and necessary and administered with justice and quickly so that it can be deeply integrated. You work directly.
As you talked about heart, mind, and soul, the word soul just began to light up for me, and what came into my awareness was the amazing journey that you're going to be going on in just a few days to Konya in Turkey, and it's called The Glory of Rumi, and you're going to Konya for the 740th anniversary of what the world calls Rumi's death, but what is known by those who know to be the Rumi's marriage day to the beloved.
Yes. There is no death for Rumi. There is only liberation. He knew that he was going home. He was already in home, so the next initiation was bound to be the most amazing shattering of all, and he knew it would come. In one of his greatest poems, he said, "When I die, I will die at the breast of the All-Merciful. What am I saying? How could the lover ever die?" So he knew that only Rumi was dying, the being, the body, the biography, that was dying. But the being that had used that biography to inseminate the world's heart, mind with glory, that being was going to another dimension of transcendent love and power from which that being has been guiding human evolution, just as Jesus did.
And so, of course, part of the penetration and the imprinting that brought forth all of this great poetry came through Shams.
Yes.
And is there...
Well, it came through an ecstatic alchemical love relationship of the highest kind, one that completely destroyed and completely remade him, because Rumi had longed to meet somebody who would shatter him, because he knew that he was stuck in his superego. And he prayed for years while being the hotshot of Konya to meet one of the Abdal, one of the hidden ones. And Shams, who was in his 60s, was also praying to God to meet someone who could stand the intensity and magnificence and solar majesty and ferocity of his presence, so that he could transmit the whole of this tremendous realization that was blazing in him to someone else, so that their child could live in the soul of humanity. Their child, their love child, could actually give birth again and again to new vision in humanity. And what happened is that God said to Shams, well, go to Konya and you'll meet him. Shams went and met Rumi and completely destroyed Rumi's vision of who Rumi had been, dragged him through a kind of tangle of lightnings that stunned him open and destroyed his ego, and then himself either was murdered or disappeared, leaving Rumi in a state of absolute insanity in which all vestiges of Rumi crumbled, and he experienced total dereliction and total union at the same time, and came through a miracle of grace on a hotel bedroom floor, sitting next to his son, Sultan Balad, to say, well, Shams and I are now one. When you see me, you see him. So the union of two heart minds in adoration transcends death, transcends any kind of destruction, and is the eternal reality of the nature of God, the nature of the human relationship with the beloved, the nature of essential human sacred love between men, between women, between beings, between men and animals, between the relationship, the great love relationship. It's amazing, isn't it?
So beautiful. You know, we're approaching the time to move.
Beautiful. We're so lucky to be in a time that can begin to even imagine drinking of such beautiful and holy wine. It's a great, great blessing even to begin to contemplate it, let alone actually start to drink it. And that changes everything.
Andrew, you have been part of the beautiful and holy wine of my life. And I thank you for that. I'm so grateful. And we're moving into a time where we're going to let some of our people listening have an intimate relationship with you in the form of questions or comments, which I know you love because you've been basking in some of them from some of the dialogues you've had on the Shift Network.
I've loved talking about. I've been so blessed by them. Yes.
Yeah. And so our Telesummit director is Melanie Davis. Melanie, do you have anything that you want to say to our listeners as we transition into this next period of time?
Well, thank you. First of all, I just have to say, wow, and thank you for this amazing hour. It just went so quickly, and just what a blessing to hear this beautiful conversation between the two of you. I feel like I've been listening in on just something so amazing and just beautiful. And we do have questions coming through, but I would also like to be able to invite the folks that are listening on the phone. If they have a question, they can press *2 on their telephone now, and I will be able to unmute your phone so you can speak directly with Andrew and Marj. And the other way you can submit a question, if you're listening via webcast or Skype, you can type it in the question box, which is on the events page where you receive the information on how to access this call. Type your question in there. you may place your name there, and be sure to click that submit button so that we do receive that. And we do have several people raising their hand. I'm going to bring the first one in, area code 714. It looks like Anaheim, California. Hello, you're live on the air with Marj and Andrew.
My name's Bruce. I pressed it, and I'm in Orange, California. Am I the right person you're looking for?
Yes,
Bruce, you're here. Talk to us.
I'd just like to share something, and I've been working hard while listening to distill it. And so I'll just say this. I am currently enraged with every fiber of my soul at the atrocities that are taking place in the world, while simultaneously weeping with abandon at the beauty of God and the universe, and trying to hold both of those truths for me seems to be my purpose here. I mean, I just see tremendous, what apparently are contradictions. I recognize the importance of your work, Andrew, and I simultaneously believe that the world is perfect as it is. And so those are the things that I don't know if you call it struggle, but I just try to embrace. I try to keep spacious enough to hold both of those opposites. That's all.
Well, I think that is a very profound and very beautiful place to live from. I think there is a goal in that place, and I think it is to identify what you can do from that place of being initiated into the heartbreak and into the glory of what's possible. What I think you discover when you really live in that place is that it is asking you to devote yourself to some cause in the world that truly moves the fiber of your being, so that you can participate not just in the experience of divine love, but also in its dynamic, creative work. And that, to me, is the goal. And I completely get where you are. I think it's an amazing, powerful place. But I feel the next step for you is to find a way of pouring out this gorgeous energy into radical work in your life to give this birth a form. Because that's the meaning of our time, is to embody the divine. And embodiment is hard for all of us, but it's so exciting when we risk the challenge of form, of getting things done in the world that reflect our deepest passions and values. And I feel that that's where you're being led to by the beloved. And I think that that would be such a wonderful place to pour out your life energy from in this time. So I hope that's an answer. It's certainly my heart is speaking to your heart through what I'm saying.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Bruce, for the call. We have a question that came through. Could you tell us more about your attitude of accessing the superconscious through the World Wide Web? Many people seem to be talking about the importance of disconnecting from the net in order to access internal consciousness.
I don't think it's an either-or situation at this moment. It might become so. At this moment, I think it's possible to disconnect for hours and really do simple, sacred, mystical tuning exercises that connect you directly with the source wherever you are. And that's essential, that's foundational. But the truth is that on the net you can reach the souls of people in a very difficult situation through what we're doing now, through messages on Facebook that can inspire people. And it's important to use these resources of love and of wisdom and of interconnection as long as we have them, because people need a great deal of being witnessed and of being ministered to with love and of being inspired. It's so important at this moment. So that's my feeling, that you can actually combine a deep withdrawal and retreat into silence with a clear, wise, focused use of media to really reach people as long as we can reach them as this civilization continues to collapse.
Thank you. Another question. Could you describe some details of the physical transfiguration you witnessed?
Well, it's extremely hard to put it into actual words, because a true divine transfiguration of the body is a very subtle manifestation. In Bede's case, he emanated light, and I could see the divine light around him. I could also see that his body had become porous to the light, that it was breathing the light, and that he and the light were not separate. They were one thing, one being, one unity. And because there was an immense field of grace around him, in which miraculous apparitions and insights took place naturally, so there was a sense of an immense power being released by his presence. So there was this physical radiance, which was a divine radiance, and there was a profound emanation of absolutely naked divine love in his whole being, not just his mind and his heart, but in his entire body. And that this was the living divine human, the crucified, resurrected one.
Thank you. We have a caller. I'm going to unmute your line, and the area code is 503. Caller, you're on the air live with Andrew and Marj.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just love you both, and thank you so much for being present. Last time we talked, Andrew, this is Jan. I have moved to Portland, and you talked about embodying the Holy Spirit, and that's happening. And I really hear about this shattering through all levels and realms of the existence of the old paradigm, so that this resurrection and consciousness happens. What can happen for like an individual and for the collective, because I'm talking personally and for all of us, during nighttime, how do we get this Holy Spirit, this state of consciousness and blessedness? It's not talking about just protection, but I'm talking about raising the foundation and vibration while we're resting our physical bodies. How does that happen so that there isn't a shattering, and every morning during meditation and prayer there must be another level of purification and consciousness that dissolves all of that occurs during nighttime?
Well, I think the most essential thing is to bring yourself as far as possible into a state of deep worshipful peace and adoration before you go to sleep. So the best prayer is a prayer of sanctification of the world, of infinite gratitude to the beloved, of gratitude for everything in your life, and go to bed in that state of ultimate receptivity, and then pray for the light to so permeate your dreams that the dreams become direct transmissions of its truth to you, and lay your whole being before the light as you go into its shadow, the shadow of sleep, where you can be blessed directly from it. And then, as you practice this over time, you'll find that you'll be able to enter the dream more and more consciously, that you'll be given long, clear stretches of direct instruction from the heart mind, the beloved's heart mind. And that will change everything.
I felt your transmission. Thank you. I pass it on also. Thank you. I feel it. I feel you. Thank you for your blessings, both of you.
Thank you, Donnie.
Thank you.
Oh, that was so wonderful. We do have another caller. This one is from area code 828. Caller, you're live with Andrew and Marj.
Hello, Andrew and Marj.
Hello.
Hi. So, Andrew, I have known of you and read your writings on and off over the years, but in particular in the past year, I just feel like each time I hear you speak and the words you use, it moves me to tears, even in this moment. And, because you speak of the heart longing and the passion and the union. And so I guess my question to you is, in part, that other than these rare moments where I find my tears when I'm in communication or connection with someone like you, I feel disconnected or detached from my heart and from my beloved.
Yes.
And it leaves me weary. Like, I understand, to whatever degree I understand, and have had my own dark night, and feels more like being flat or disconnected. I'm out of my heart. I'm out of my intuition, the part like where I felt guided and led and knew what was wanted and needed. And in that disconnect, I feel weary and without energy or ability to do sometimes even the simplest things, let alone something that is more of sacred activism.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There is a simple way through, and I beg you just to listen to me. I'm speaking to you from my heart. When I get to that place, I remember that the holiest practice of all is just saying the name of God in the heart. All you need to do when you feel completely listless is just to start saying the name, any name you like. If you want to use the great Sufi mantra, use La ilaha illallah, there is no other God but God, La ilaha illallah, or use anything that truly speaks to you of the majesty and of the holiness and of the grandeur of this great ocean of divine love and intelligence that you are one with. And that will train your mind, your soul. And that will give you the strength to go forward, because you're depriving yourself of the food you need, and the food you need is in sacred practice. That will feed you directly from the milk of the beloved's breast. And you need to start saying the name of God and turning in tender adoration to the beloved through the saying of the name, and you will find that your life will be lit up again by energy. But you need to do it soon, because you've been on an anorexic withdrawal from this kind of wild, holy passion that is the source of your being. So, that's the way through. Am I making sense to you?
Yes, you're making sense. And I will also say that I'm in your talk on the Passion of Rumi, and and I didn't really think I would get through this time to talk with you, but I had spoken to you once in that, and you had given me a similar thing, and one of my questions was, but I felt like I could articulate it a little bit better this time, but it is that I did start using the La ilaha, and it's permeated my dreams.
That's a great sign.
Like in English out loud, I have trouble saying it, but I wake up and in my dreams, it's just flowing very fluidly.
Well, I would trust your dreams. How wonderful! That's very sacred and very holy.
Right, and I've been really grateful for that. And I know it can't change overnight, but I still feel. That part that just feels flat and tired, and even in my gratitude for that something is shifting because it's showing up in my dreams and I'm doing it more consciously. I mean, I used to feel like I was a living prayer and had prayer in the name of Jesus always. And
well, I'm sure you have been. I think you're just being prepared for another level. Give up and give in surrender and do the best you can. Don't force anything. You can't force these processes. You have to surrender and allow them to let them be what they are and guide you forward in exactly their own terms. That's the beloved. Beloved's very fierce, but I think it's great. You're going along fine.
Well, I feel that sometimes until I hear you speak again, and then the passion in your words and the calling in your voice is so profound and deep that it taps mine. So.
Well, I think that you have to prepare for that passion, and I think that your great challenge now is to ground and be calm and do sacred work inside quietly, and just to be as peaceful as you can be and let what's unfolding unfold, so that when you're ready, you'll be a perfect vessel for the passion. But you mustn't put in the hot water into a glass that's not strong enough yet. You need to get the glass strong by sacred calm work, grounding work, deep meditation, deep prayer, and you'll be great. You'll be fine.
Thank you. Absolutely beautiful. We have something coming through from Daryl. Daryl writes, "Thank you, Andrew Harvey, for lifting others, including our beloved Marj Britt, as you humbly teach us higher levels of consciousness. As learned as you are, how do you seemingly hold your ego in check?"
Well, I hope I do. There are really 3 ways I do it. The first is that I try and ground myself in worship of the total divine, which just flattens my ego immediately, because in that adoration there is nothing but the other, the one, the only. The second way is that I have very fierce friends who tell me the truth. Everybody needs a core of friends who are not impressed by them, but love them very deeply. And I'm lucky enough to have those friends to really beat me into shape when I need it. The third thing that I really do, and this is very important for me, is that I've been in a Jungian analysis for 9 years. But it's gone far beyond an analysis. It's with a man who's an alchemist and a great teacher of the shadow. And this has been a tremendous journey into the dark for me, with a companion whom I could trust. So it was a huge integration. And that's how I keep my ego in check, because all of those 3 activities are very humbling. That they don't let you have much of an ego, and they expose your ego to yourself when it turns up. So I find them very important, because I think I'm discovering that the evolutionary process is just not accessible if you're in the ego, because as soon as you think you understand it or try to control it, it recedes because it's too impure a vibration. It can't be caressed by that vibration. So the more techniques you have for lowering your estimation of yourself before your true self, the divine self, the more healed you can potentially be of the egomania and narcissism that are so tragically the shadows of the mystical path, and which most people have to go through in some way or another anyway to get to have a chance of getting to the other side of. But it's a very disturbing phenomenon, and it's all around us. One can see it in the spiritual world, etc. It's around us, and it's a psychosis. So it's avoiding all of these things you can only do by prayer and by meditation, and by constantly returning to the beloved as the everything, the entire wisdom and sacred presence of the universe, far beyond anything that you could ever imagine or be related to, except through unbelievable mercy on behalf of the beloved, grace beyond imagining. So that's the key for me, for people staying in the right relationship.
Thank you. We have another question. Can you tell us more about the difference between the traditional view of the Christ and the emerging view of the Christ consciousness?
The fundamental difference, I think, is that the emerging Christ consciousness absolutely refutes the fantasy that Jesus is the only Son of God, separated uniquely in some sacred way from the rest of humanity, worthy of worship of a very exalted kind that separates him from the rest of humanity, and the founder of a unique revelation destined to theologize the whole of humanity, a kind of military operation of taking over the mind heart of the world. All of this is a complete fantasy. The true Jesus is a sacred pioneer of a wholly new stage of human evolution. He came to do it, to embody the divine, not to be adored, not to be worshipped, but to reveal the divine human in all beings and the way to it through absolutely abandoned courage, passion, surrender, humility, and acceptance of majestic powers in the name of the beloved and of love itself. And he did this not to found a religion, but to show us a path, a way that we have to follow, but with one advantage, and that is that he's with us on the path. He is transcendent, immanent heart brother of the whole human race who takes this path of transfiguration, of divine embodiment. And this new vision that's emerging of the Christ consciousness takes the Christ out of all of the fake Christian versions of the Christ, restores the Christ to the center of the heart, soul, mind of the world, and asks for the challenge of the Christ, which is to make love real, to make love active, to make love dynamic, to make love reflected in law and how we treat the environment, how we treat animals, is the absolute imperative, the heart of love. It is love speaking, it's love becoming real. That is the great new Christ emerging. It's not belongs to any one religion. It is the revelation of the divine human as given to us by somebody who enacted it all. That's how I see it, and that's what excites me immeasurably and humbles me very deeply, because it's such an amazing achievement what Jesus did to make possible this rebirth of the divine human. But it's not by following him as a God, it's by going through the same process with his help that we can actually get there.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. We have another question. I hear increasingly from people that do not feel they quite fit in this world. Have you ever felt that way yourself? And what would you like to tell them to support them on their journey?
I would like to tell them that it's the most wonderful grace that they feel that they don't fit into a completely depraved, materialistic, idiotic, self-destructive, nihilistic world. And the more you realize that not fitting in at this level is actually a very great sacred blessing, the more you can use that sacred blessing to go deeper and deeper into your divine self and start working from the silent depths of that divine self on the reality around you by embodying peace and silence and compassion. And I think that's the way everybody who's singled out for a mystical life, I think, goes through this crisis of fundamental aloneness. And it's an essential thing to face, the aloneness of the authentic, individuating mystical life. It's not something you can get out of. It's part of the final crucible of the ego, because you have to just stand your own solitude to its depths and see what monsters are hidden in it and what angels arise from it. And that's very hard for any human being, but it's something that has to be done through grace, through surrender. So that's what I think.
Thank you.
I hope these are helpful.
I'm loving hearing your answers, Andrew. It's just grace for me to be in the presence of souls coming forward with the questions, and you're responding in such intimate and beautiful ways. Thank you so much.
It's an honor for me, really. Yes, truly.
Thank you. What would your advice or instruction to those in daily full-time work or with family still at home that feel called to continue fulfilling their responsibility to family employment, but also feel a call to the transcendent and aren't sure what to do about it? How best can they be spiritual activists?
What an amazing question. I think the first thing that is probably the hardest thing is to accept that the life that you're living is already a life of profound spiritual activism, that your loving and supporting of all the people in your life is an act of sacred prayer. So to make that conscious and to be realizing that in all the hurly-burly, your love is being expressed, you're doing it, it's amazing. Make it conscious and celebrate it. That's the first thing. So the transcendent isn't outside your life. It's actually in all the details of your life. It's in everything around you. It's in your children. It's in the mess. It's in the whole ragamatag of family. It's in all these responsibilities. So to get to it, you have to make one commitment absolutely central to your life, and that is that you're going to attune your soul to the beloved before you do anything in the day, just in those first 5 minutes, to just turn your whole being in the soul to the one and say, I am yours, help me, irradiate me, make me yours. Whatever your soul spontaneously wants to say at that moment, it'll be so simple, just speak it to yourself and experience the great peace, the great love. And then you'll be attuned in the whole of your life to the transcendent, and you'll be able to fulfill your mission, which will emerge. You don't have to go into retreat to find your mission. Your mission is in this life you're leading, led with celebration and love. And you'll be guided, because you are love in action, to the next level of service. It will emerge naturally from the environment that you're in, and you'll see it will emerge sooner rather than later. So that's my advice.
Thank you. And I believe we have time for just one more question. And we have one coming in from South Africa. I understand non-attachment and surrender in spirituality, but I wonder about indifference and no passion. How do they link up? It sometimes seems that with the non-attachment, it can appear as indifference with no passion.
That is a brilliant question. I think that true divine love has no shadow of indifference. It is noble, pure, burning, constant, tender, vulnerable, extremely focused at all moments. But I think until you know that, you're always in danger of either being too attached or too detached. If you're too attached, the world drives you completely insane and you burn out. And if you're too detached, you don't get that the world is in such stupendous crisis and human beings need an immense amount of help, including yourself. But how you find that balance is actually a gift of grace in my experience. And it's a gift of the peace that passes all understanding that Jesus promised those who loved him. And it's a gift that's given, I think, at all the core of the mystical traditions. It's a gift of realization of divine mystery, of divine presence at all moments in all circumstances. And when that gift is there, there's no need for complex anything. You're living it, it is living you, and your whole being is expressing the sacred mission of your life, which is to become love and to act from that love in and as everything that you do and are and speak and intend. That's the true Jesus transformation. That's the true transformation of the human into the divine human.
That's so beautiful, Andrew. And as we approach the end of our time together, I want to give some reminders to everyone on the line. And And then I want to come back and ask you one more question. Does that work for you?
Oh, my darling, anything for you.
Oh, thank you. You are so beautiful to me. So I just want to remind everyone listening that there is a section on the page just below the bio that's called Intersections in Time That Changed My Life. And I've written the first one about intersections in time with Andrew that changed my own life. And you are invited to think about intersections in time with Andrew, and it might have been on the call today, that hold the potential of changing your life, or ones that have changed your life. And share them with each other, and share them with Andrew. And then the other thing that I want to let you know about is that on Wednesday this week, I will be talking with Constance Kellogg. She came into my life through an intersection in time as a result of Eckhart Tolle being on the bricks and mortar platform at Unity in Tustin. And she was the person that he knew during the time was introduced to during the time he was sitting on the park bench, beginning to write, wondering what the purpose of his life was, and yet feeling the energy coursing through and putting it onto paper. And the intersection in time that changed his life was with Constance Kellogg, who helped him publish The Power of Now. And it also changed her life. She became no longer a university professor, but the founder of Namaste Publishing. And we're going to be dialoguing with her on Wednesday, and she will be talking about that intersection with Eckhart Tolle. Or I will be asking her about that. On Friday, Adyashanti will be the person with whom we share a dialogue, these deep, intimate, incredible moments. And Fabian and I spent time with Adyashanti and Mukti in September, and we were on his worldwide broadcast on September 25th together, Adya and I together. You're going to want to join me. What an amazing, amazing soul. And he's been at Unity in Tustin also many times, and just a dear and precious friend. And then next Monday, John Welshons will be the person that we are in dialogue with, and he came into my life through an intersection in time with Ram Dass, who was at Unity in Tustin. And it was through Ram Dass that I met John Welshons. And they are very, very close friends. John Welshons, I will be asking John Welshons some of the story about that intersection in time for him. And on Wednesday and Friday, or the day before and after Thanksgiving, we are going to come online for what I call celebrations of gratitude or celebrations of light. Sometimes on the day before or after Thanksgiving, people are busy. But what I know from nearly 30 years in ministry is that sometimes those kinds of holidays are the loneliest days of all for people who don't feel that connection with family or don't feel that connection with the celebration of the holiday. And so we will be here for you and with you, and think about your own celebrations of gratitude, moments in life that you're grateful for, or some of the things you're learning in this telesummit that could be immensely beneficial to others hearing you around the world. I'm so grateful that we had someone from South Africa with us today. And also Hanukkah is during this time as well as Thanksgiving, and it celebrates days of light and the carrying of the light and the kindling of the light. And so think about who's kindled your light and carried the light in your life. And then on Monday, following the Thanksgiving experience, Jean Houston will be with us in dialogue. And I will be asking her about moments in time where she hit the wall and how it changed her life. And I will also be asking her about the tenderness of some of the last moments with her beloved husband before he passed through the veils. What I know is that on this telesummit, you are truly going to get to know the hearts as well as the minds of some of the most amazing explorers of consciousness on the planet. You're going to know their joys and their sorrows, their breakthroughs and their heartbreaks, and you will have a chance to open to another level of vastness, another coming into the awareness of that field of love that is without an opposite. And so, Andrew, my final question for you is a question I ask all of the people that I interviewed for my doctoral dissertation, and I got the most significant, most life-transforming answer on my 98th of 100 interviews. So here is the question. Is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have?
Well, I think that the only question that I'd like to really be asked is this a happy period in my life? That would be such a blessing to say, yes, it is. And I love being the age I am. I love having been in the fire. I love having done the work that I've done. I love doing the work that I'm doing. I love talking to you. I love this chance to reach out to hearts and souls. It's such a blessing. So I feel immensely happy and blessed to do this great, small, humble, no-nonsense work that we're all called to do at this moment, and to rejoice in it, because, my God, what a wonderful work to be given.
As you refer to this age of your life, at this age in my life, would you be willing to share what your age actually is?
Oh, God, I'm 61. Wow. Yes, and I love it. I thought 60 was great, but 61 is even better. I'm looking forward to the next part. It's the best. I think you're much more open to love, much more loving, much more awake, much humbler. People are so much more lovable, too, as you grow older, because you see how difficult human life is for most people, for everybody. And that's very healing. It makes you more compassionate and more forgiving naturally, which is a huge benefit, isn't it?
You know, it's amazing because I'm in the first half of my 70s. And it's amazing, Andrew. In my 70s, the first half of my 70s, I've gone through the most devastating experiences of my life and the most transforming and joy-filled experiences of my life. Both and. And I am
as if
so
your life
grateful.
is a preparation for them, don't you think? It's then you can take the full voltage of the real transformation, which is always double punched like that, isn't it?
It really is.
Mm.
And what a joy it's been, Andrew, to be with you today. You continually inspire me. You are one of the guiding explosions in my life that have created my own inner emergence. And I'm so grateful.
Well, I'm very grateful to you, sweetheart, and I'm an honor. It's an honor to be here, and an honor to hear your kind words, but most of all, an honor to be your friend in this adventure, sweetheart. Thank you.
And I feel that totally, and I love you deeply. And so, Andrew, until the next time, my heart is filled with love and filled with gratitude. You are a blessing to the world. Much love. Goodbye.